No one knows the day or the hour of the rapture. This is because of the Galilean wedding pattern that lines up with what Jesus taught. Jesus was a Galilean. The Galilean bride represents the church, and the bridegroom represents Jesus. The groom begins the marriage tradition by leaving his father's house and going to the home of his prospective bride. Jesus left his father's home in heaven and came down to the earth, the home of his bride, the church. The father of the groom officiated the betrothal, set the terms, and paid the price for the bride. God the Father officiates salvation, sets the terms, and gave his only Son to pay the price to purchase his bride. The terms of the marriage covenant were read publicly and agreed upon. The new covenant terms are Jesus dying for sins and us receiving it by grace through faith without any of our works. The will of the Father is to believe in Jesus Christ. The groom's dowry is a down payment, securing the betrothal and caring for the bride. Jesus gave his life on the cross and the Holy Spirit as a down payment, a security for his bride, and an assurance of her future protection and care. The groom is handed a pitcher of wine, which he pours into a ceremonial cup, the cup of joy. Lord's Supper or communion also partakes of the cup of joy, the fruit of the vine representing the groom's life given for the bride. Once the wine is drunk by the bride, the covenant becomes irrevocable. Once a person becomes a believer, is truly saved, and is part of the church, Jesus' bride. The promise and covenant are irrevocable, a clear picture of the assurance of salvation. The groom says publicly, "You are now consecrated to me by the law of Moses, and I will not drink this cup again with you until we drink it together in my Father's house." In Matthew 26-29 at the Last Supper, Jesus repeats almost these exact same words to his bride, and he is the one who fulfilled the law. Year-long journey begins. His people return to their lives in the work of preparing. The wedding now begins. Jesus ascended to heaven, and the church now goes about the work of preparing itself as the bride. As Jesus prepares for the wedding, the groom acquires everything needed to build the new home for him and his bride. Jesus has gone away to heaven for an unspecified period of time to build us a home in the Father's house. The Galileans would have instantly understood that the groom had to go away to build a home. This is exactly what Jesus did for his bride, the church. In the meantime, bride goes about preparing herself for the groom, keeping herself pure and thinking only of the groom's return, while not knowing the exact day or hour. The church goes about preparing itself as a holy and pure bride by grace through faith, because our hearts are purified by faith for Christ, knowing that his return is assured, not knowing exactly when he will return. The general sequence of events, the general timing and observation of the preparations would tell the bride the time was getting near. The bride of Christ can watch the convergence of prophetic signs. Is God's plan is being fulfilled, signaling the soon return of Jesus for his bride. Only the Father knew the exact day and hour, and only the Father could say, "Go get your bride." Only God the Father knows the exact day and hour. Only he will tell Jesus, "Go get your bride." The Galilean wedding. It was expected that the groom would come in the middle of the night at an unknown time, and the bride traditionally slept in her wedding dress. In the parable of the virgins in Matthew 25, we are told to always be prepared because the groom will show up while they are sleeping. The church is to always be ready for Jesus' return by believing in God, who justifies the ungodly and gives you the righteousness of God by grace through faith. When the father of the groom says go, son gets a trumpet and sets off for the bride with a wedding party in a wedding procession. When God the Father tells Jesus, the Son, to go get his bride, he returns to earth with a wedding procession and the sound of the trumpet of God. Two men would carry the bride away, lifting her up in the air on a seat with a pole on either side for men to carry her. Galileans referred to this as flying the bride to the Father's house. This is obviously symbolic of the rapture, where the bride of Christ is caught up in the air, not by her own power, by the power of the wedding procession, and flown away to the Father's house, heaven. From the moment bride is carried away, she is forever with the groom, From the moment the bride of Christ is caught up in the air, she is forever with the groom. Shortly after the arrival, the veiled bride and the groom would be escorted into the bridal chamber alone, where the marriage should be consummated. The church will experience spiritual union with Jesus, consummating their covenanted relationship. The wedding feast would continue for 7 days. We will feast in heaven during the 7-year tribulation on earth. During the 7 days, the bride remains hidden in the bridal chamber. During the 7 years, the bride remains hidden in heaven. This is mentioned in Isaiah 26. During this time, the Galilean father closes the door to the house and keeps out all those who had rejected the invitation or who were not prepared. All those who had rejected the groom's promise while the bride was on earth are kept out of the wedding feast in heaven. The father shuts the door, and no one else can join the bride. They are left behind because they didn't believe in Jesus. At the conclusion of the 7 days, the groom would bring the bride out, her veil removed, so that all would see who the bride was when Jesus returns to the earth. He brings the church, and all who remain on the earth will know who his bride is. This is why Jesus said no one knows the day or the hour of the rapture, because it's all about the Galilean wedding.